Okay, welcome back to the Alpha Project.
Wait, it's Devin's. Wait, it's Devin's turn.
No,
to
I'm
fucking
doing it
intro.
this time.
No, fuck it, it's Devin's turn.
Psyched.
You did the first one. I did the second. Now
All
it's
right,
Devin's turn.
we're gonna put that in the outtake reel.
All right.
Take it off.
Hi guys, we're here with the Alpha
No, this is
Project.
okay. Here's the reason. My issue is this. Listen, we had this problem when we first started doing the fucking the other podcast. He's terrible at podcast intro, so I don't even know why I even gave him that.
You know what? That's good though. We're leading into success.
Thank
we're talking
you for
about
thinking
success
of
today.
me though.
So tell me how you got so good at podcast intros. How did you succeed?
Practice makes perfect.
I couldn't even hold
Won
it.
the large Stella.
Yeah.
Success.
It's actually an old Milwaukee in a Stella glass,
All right,
but I feel fancy.
Here's your intro. Today we are talking about success. In the famous words of Jay-Z, what do I think of success? It sucks too much stress.
Ooh.
I'm
way
not
better than Devin's.
Yeah, right?
It's cheesy as fuck, and it's still way better
Right?
than Devin's.
Exactly. That's
I'm
I was going with pure
I'm a
cheese.
business
Man, I was going with that pure brie.
Okay,
nice,
let's do that
creamy,
though. Let's
smooth.
talk about business. Success as what? As a man, success is what?
Well, first and foremost, I don't think success in business is success. Success, I mean, it is, but it's not.
It's one of the things.
I don't rate it as a major success in my life. A major success in my life would be teaching my kid how to ride his bike.
Huge.
Right? Having my kid learn how to read, do math. Being successful in my relationship with my fiance. Right?
You always say it like that, fiance.
Fiance. I didn't say it like that. You said it like that. I said fiance. The big major success I have every day is going to bed with a clean kitchen. I know it's fucking weird.
Do you make your bed when you first wake up in the morning?
I don't, but that's only because my fiance is still sleeping. If I made the bed with her in it, she would get pissed.
Okay, I make my bed every morning. First thing, you wake up, morning routine, get up, no sleeping in, right? When your alarm clock gets up, get up. Get the fuck up.
Yeah.
Make your bed right away. What does your morning routine look like? For me, up, make my bed, okay, right away, you have to move. So I go to the gym first thing in the morning. First thing I do.
We can tell you're showing the guns off, buddy.
Jesus.
Give it to him.
That's what's up. You go to the gym, you sweat a little bit.
I hate that he's so big. Drives me crazy.
You get your blood flowing, right? After my workout, I come home and then I reel it in, okay? So like physical success and then mental success. Meditate for 10, 15 minutes, journal, decent breakfast, and then set your intentions for the day. For me, it looks like this. It looks 3 things in my journal. What are the 3 things that I can do today that would lead me to a productive day? Just three things.
That's great.
3 you can do, right? 3 is attainable. If you set a huge list, I need to do like 15 things today, you're not going to get it done. You're going to beat yourself up.
You know what? That's interesting that you say that, because I was actually going to ask if you write in the morning, because I do too. I'm up at 5 a.m. every morning, right? I don't have to be at work till 8, 9 o'clock. So my first 2 hours of the day is usually writing. I'm in the process of a book right now. I have scripts to write. I have monologues to write. There's a bunch of business things with Devin I have to go through. So I'm usually doing that first thing in the morning. So that's 2 or 3 hours. And I usually get some reading in there as well. And that's usually how I start my day, positive stuff, right? Or I'm listening to affirmations or, whatever motivational type bullshit, right? That's usually how I start my day, because I figure if you can make one success very first thing in the morning, your day is not a waste, right? It's not a fail day, and that compounds over the day. So you can just keep adding little successes. If I get a great Tim Hortons coffee in the morning, that's a success. Because some of them fuck it up, some of them don't. So if I get a great coffee, I'm like, perfect. My day is going to be well. My day is going to be great. I'm going to have a fantastic day. Even if they mess it up, I keep a little sugar in my card. You know what I mean? That way, it's still going to be good. I have a great coffee. Have a great day.
Are you a double-double guy?
I am a double-double guy, yeah.
I was a double-double guy, and then it got too sweet for me. I don't know what happened in my old age,
As soon as
but it's all of a
Tim
sudden too
Tim
sweet.
Hortons especially, and it's crazy how much sugar they dump.
Killer.
It's almost like as soon as it's completely off topic, anyways. But yeah, I used to be a tea guy. I used to drink tea, a regular tea, 1-in-1 tea, but now it's coffee.
You look like you like a tea bag.
So it's what I'm
First of all, we have a guest here today. Okay, we have a guest here today, and I know what's going to happen, okay? Because the guest that's here today is a friend of mine, and I've known him for years, and these guys are going to bag on me. So just in case you guys figure... Yeah, they're going to teabag on me. Right?
That's 2. That's 2. I can go all day.
Listen, I'm just letting you know, if we're going to go this route, we're going to go this route. I'm just making sure you guys are going to walk out, because I get nasty.
Okay, so let's keep going. Let's reel it in. Let's reel it back in.
All right.
What do your mornings look like? I did mine.
All right, Devin, you're in.
So I wake up, I make my bed, I slam the biggest glass of water that I possibly can, and then I immediately find the nearest coffee. And then I sip my coffee and I scroll through my Facebook and I get my bearings because I am not a fucking morning person.
And by morning,
all.
you mean noon, right? Because that's when you get up?
Like 9. 9 is kind of my outside.
9 is basically noon.
I was about to say.
To the 5 o'clock.
Yo, 9 is noon.
Yeah,
and here's why. Because half my day is done before I even leave for work, for my 8-hour work day. Half my day is done. Half the stuff that I need to do, the productive part of my day is always in the morning. I find most success comes from the morning. And it's not necessarily like that for everybody. Yeah. You're a late night guy, so most of your success comes between noon and 4 a.m. or midnight and 4 a.m.
Very, very late. So I don't go to bed until 2 or 3 in the morning.
Right.
Just on an average night. And some nights when I really push it, that's a 4 o'clock in the morning, work day for me. And then I go and sleep. And I normally sleep, 7-8 hours. And I respect my sleep because the health benefits that come along with it, your immune system and your body regeneration, your mind power, all the things stem from having a good solid sleep. The thing is when I was young, my aspirations were to become a famous musician by any means, right? So one of the requisites for being a musician is that your work is when people are partying. You're up when people are, closing down. And so if that was going to be the lifestyle that I wanted, I just kind of accidentally conditioned myself for it. So I find my my least productive part of the day is the first 2 hours when I wake up. That's my coffee, video games, do fucking nothing, then shower and get ready. But I always do those steps in those orders. And then after I shower and get ready, even if I'm not leaving the house, if everything that I have to do is happening at the house, that's my first win. That's my first success is I wake up and I make sure that I feel good about myself and I'm taken care of. I eat my breakfast and shit, whatever it is, which I was never a breakfast guy. I was always a coffee and cigarette guy because I lived a very questionable youth. But
you live a questionable adolescence right now too.
Yeah, well, that's what happens.
So we can agree that at some point in our daily routines we're priming.
Yeah, you're building up that snowball for whatever work ends up getting done during that time. So I had to adjust a little bit of because it used to be noon and I would go to bed at 6.
Right.
I had to adjust a little bit because, when you're dealing in the business world, they kind of want you to be in during their hours.
Unless you're dealing with
a conversation with
unless
you're
dealing in Hong Kong or something like that.
Yeah, well,
right?
and that's true.
But I want
to
skip the rest of the day right now, and I want to go to your evening routines. And the reason being is because I do believe that how you set yourself up before you go to sleep is almost as important as how you wake up.
The way you need to look at it is everything is connected. So your evening ritual will affect your morning ritual. So for me, when I get home, right at the end of the day, and I leave my house at 7 o'clock in the morning after priming myself, right? And then when I get home, it's often 8:30, 9 p.m. right? So for me, it's I go home, okay, I feed the cats. And then I take, 15 minutes, half an hour and chill, decompress, right? And then right before bed, I read, right? Read 10, 15 pages. It's not like you're sitting down and I'm reading a chapter or two. It's like a little bit. Just condition your brain. And then I go back to the journal and say, okay, the 3 things that I set out to do, did I do them, right? Yes or no? If yes, great. That's awesome. If no, why not? And how can I transition that into tomorrow so that tomorrow gets done?
So you have a habit of accountability to what you set out to do and then what happens at the end of the day.
So that you are accountable to yourself. And I took this actually out of Darren Hardy's book, The Compound Effect, and he calls it bookending your days, right? You picture your bookshelf, you have a bookend on either end, right?
Yep.
You start your day well and you end your day well. In the middle, if you're doing the start and the finish well, chances are the middle of your day is wholesome and healthy and productive.
Yeah. Not that you don't have stresses that you're going to face in those times. Then there's the ups and downs.
Right.
There's always going to be things.
But we'll get to that in just a little bit because I definitely want to talk about stresses as it pertains to success. Right. What is your evening routine?
I literally work until that 3 o'clock mark hits, and when that 3 o'clock mark hits, I pace the house for 20 minutes. Wondering if there's anything left that I can get done in 5 minutes before bed, but there's nothing, and so it's that last 15 minutes of
this is 3 a.m. for you.
Yeah.
And I've seen you fall asleep in front of your laptop. So
yeah, so completely at that point, it's like I've worked so hard that I am exhausted now, and now is time for rest. And for whatever reason, it served me for all of my endeavors because I just feel like the level of productivity that I get once again, that snowball thing, once it gets going, the level of productivity that I have at that, from that moment on, from about like when I put my kid to bed, 9:30, 10 o'clock, somewhere around there, he goes to bed, and that's my work day now. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I do whatever I can, during the day. I gotta, do the homeschooling thing and emails and just general stuff that's not going to require a lot of work. But then when he's down, it's like, okay, I got 6 hours, let's fucking crank this out. And so that's when the most productive shit happens. I feel the most creative, and a lot of my job depends on being creative. A lot of the things that I have to do, like editing a video or writing music, it's like you really got to be in this flow state that, for whatever reason, it takes me a bit to get to.
So I'm gonna build on that, because my evenings, they usually consist of, my morning routine is great. I'll go through my whole day. I'll get home, and I'm either going to, depends if I have my son or not, right? So I either hang out with my son until he goes to bed, whatever. Then it's with the fiance for an hour or whatever, and then I'm either going to record an episode of my podcast, or I'm going to smoke some weed and I'm going to fucking get into creative state, right? Because a lot of the stuff I do is a lot of creative as well, right? So to get into, obviously the branding and all that bullshit, I'm doing a lot of things for that side of things. Whereas if I'm going to smoke some weed, I'm just like, oh, smoke some weed, read a book, or lay down and be able to watch some TV, just to relax my brain, because my brain's going all the time. With 7 companies, things are always moving. Right, there's always incoming emails or texts or phone calls and whatever else like that. I will turn my phone onto silent. I'll stay off social media. I'll just smoke some weed and watch a movie or watch one episode of a TV show. And by that time, usually by the end of it, I'm out.
You're just fucking done.
It's funny, and I'm going to build on that a little bit more. It's the common theme that both of you guys have brought up is creativity, and when you find your creativity. So for me, I own a traditional business. I own a sales company, and we crush it. We do multi-million dollars in revenue every year. And it's not a creating marketing. I don't do that. I don't do graphic design. I don't, create things like that. I don't do the advertising. We have people that do that for us. However, being creative is so important, even in my line of work, right? Because you need to be on the ball. You need to be able to problem solve. You need to be able to think on your feet. And I think that's an important theme for anybody who's looking to, start a company or progress their life in any way. It's, what is going on and how can you find creative solutions for where you're at?
Creativity isn't the traditional, making music or painting pictures. Creativity is like the art of
minutia,
of discovery.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, get to the bottom of something and pick it apart and dissect it and find out what pieces work, what pieces don't. How can I fix it? How can I make it better? And so there's a deep level of that occurs in your job that traditionally you wouldn't think of as creative in nature, but by definition is.
We were just speaking outside before we started recording here, about how, when you get into this role of you're in a funk in your life, then it just kind of snowballs into more of a funk. And when you're in this successful part of your life, it just more successes build on that, and snowballs into the good, right? And
the winner effect.
Exactly, right? Yeah. So, and I think if you're setting yourself up at the beginning of the day, and then setting yourself for a great sleep, and then waking up to something great again, it compounds on itself, right?
For sure.
And it doesn't matter what happens within that day, because you can always handle those stresses and whatever's coming up.
You're going to be more capable of dealing with it when it comes.
Absolutely, and number one is, especially if you're handling yourself first, if you're dealing with your own personal issues and whatever you're going through personally first, and taking care of yourself, you're able to deal with the outward world much more easily.
For sure.
So weirdly, actually, now that you kind of say that, I'm having like an epiphany for myself. This is like my rebellious nature against any level of authority over my sovereign being has been the bane of my existence. I was not good in school for that very reason. I had trouble with authority after school for that reason. And now I'm looking back and I'm kind of connecting some dots here. The reason I think that mornings to me are so sacred and that I spend that time as my wind down time is because I am in that world of, having to wake up at this specific time and then go to this specific place and then do this specific thing and, working a job and shit for that period of time in my younger days before I became, an entrepreneur. I didn't like the authority that it had over my life. So that to me, working the night shift has allowed me to take my power back. And then when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, haha, look at all these hustle and bustle people going about their jobs and their 5 a.m. clubs and bullshit suckers. Ha ha ha. You know what I mean? Like,
So you're cynical. You're cynical with the whole process.
I am. I really, truly am. And it's funny because I was a part of this mastermind group that I joined at the beginning of this year. And part of the requisite is they do 6:30 calls on Mondays and Fridays. And when they introduced the idea to me December last year, I was like, there's no fucking way that's happening. And then, all the guys rally together and they kind of give you that pep talk. And they're like, if you want results in your life, then you have to do this thing. And so I got fucking suckered into it, man. I did. And so I went and I woke up every morning at 6:30. And I'll tell you something. I've not felt myself. I have felt so completely out of my element and discombobulated by the very definition of it. I've just been so disoriented and lacking what I perceive to be. And this is just my perception, right? There's nothing right or wrong. It just is. But I just feel like I'm not in control of my life now. I'm at the mercy of those guys, that group of men's perspective of me. Because if I don't wake up at 6:30 in the morning and I don't show up for that call, then their perception of me is that I'm a go-nowhere loser and I'm not going to accomplish anything in my life. And so I struggled with that for a lot of this experience. And I don't like it. And so I don't know what...
See, I'm going to call you out on that a little bit because we talked about this in one of the last episodes where you're saying their perception of me. And I'm going to say that's totally made up based on you because how easy would it be for you to say, hey, team, or hey, boys, or hey, whoever you're communicating with, whoever's on your project with you, right? Yeah. This is my schedule. This is my chronotype. This is when I sleep. This is when I'm creative. This is when I'm productive. I guarantee you'd get some positive feedback from that.
Yeah, my thing is like, listen, motherfucker, I'm not waking up. I'm done. I'm not doing it.
So that was the thing is this was the ultimatum. You either show up or you're out.
Okay.
That was what
then I'm out. Then I'm fucking out.
And that's so I didn't have the personal integrity to be able to be like, okay, cool, I'm good. Because part of it, and I don't want to say I didn't have the personal integrity because I don't really feel, that doesn't resonate well with me. I wanted to challenge myself to do it. I know that I am taking responsibility for challenging myself to make that, to do that, take that step. And then in doing that, all of these other things now start getting into the mix. And it's up to me how I perceive it. And I totally subscribe to that. And I stuck to it, guys. Like, it's not that I didn't do it. And I followed through, man of my word. I said I was going to do the things that I was going to do, and I did them. And in that experience, I learned a lot of things. And those things were that I felt out of control. I felt like I was pressured into doing shit that I didn't want to do. And I get that that's my fault. I'm not placing blame on anybody else or trying to say that was anybody else's fault. But I would say now, as a lesson that I've learned, that perhaps the biggest thing that I'm taking out of this whole entire year of experience is that I should have just trusted myself right from the beginning. And maybe I didn't. A year ago, me didn't trust myself enough to know that I can be successful on my terms, rather than trying to be successful on somebody else's perception of what that is. Is that
for sure? And
absolutely,
I appreciate that, and I'm going to say a couple things to a testament for you. So the fact that you stuck through it, based on results, shows that you have personal integrity because you said, "I'm going to do this," and then you showed up and did it. That also ties into our episode we did last week on failure, where you did this and you learned by completion, by doing it, that it wasn't for you, right? Mm-hmm. And you had to go through that motion. And now, given the same choice, you would make a different decision. For me, I'm part of a team right now. It's 90 days. I'm on a team where we're all just, here's your goals, and you work together to achieve them. And one of the stipulations is every morning you do a call. It's a 10-minute call with your coach, and it's for me, it's at 7:15 a.m. So I'm already up. I'm worked out by that point.
But it's according to your schedule?
No, and it's set up.
Oh, so
you like, here's your choice of 5 calls, and most of them are quite early, right? So I'm at 7:15, and it's one of the later ones. For me, it worked out well with my schedule. However, when I look at that, and my experience with that morning phone call, right, is very positive because for me, by that point at 7:15, I've already worked out. I've written out what I'm doing, and then it's a verbal confirmation. It's like, hey, this is what I have going on. This is what I'm going to accomplish today. And by doing that, now someone else is holding me accountable to doing that.
Yeah.
Right?
So, and there's a huge value in having a structure like that around you. And I think that that was another one of the valuable takeaways from it was having a group of people that are around you that hold you accountable. Because prior to this, it could be argued that the social circle that I had wasn't nearly as motivated as I was. wasn't nearly, they didn't have the same perspectives as I did on, what, achievement means. So I don't look back at this year like it was a failure, in the same vein of this conversation. I do look at this lesson that I've taken away from that experience as a success. And so how can we define that word success, and outside of the dictionary definition of to accomplish something? What I hear from you and me is the successes are a byproduct of something that you're in pursuit of. And I would argue, actually, because I'm a huge fan of Gary Vaynerchuk's work, he constantly preaches that the only measure of success that you need to have in front of you is whether or not you're happy doing the shit that you're doing.
For sure.
And I think that as a kind of a cornerstone to the idea of what success is, would help create a bigger or a better picture for other people.
Wait, sorry.
In their
are you
pursuits.
saying? So are you saying I'm not a success because like my 9 to 5 is I'm not unhappy there. It's just there's things I don't like about it.
Right.
So am I not a success now because I don't like that aspect of life? No, it's not. And I'm going to answer my own question. That was
okay. Yep.
It's
right.
rhetorical.
It's rhetorical. It's fucking rhetorical. I am a success because number one, I'm successful. I have this job because number one, it puts food on my table.
Yeah.
It feeds my son. It pays his school fees. It gets him clothes on his back. It makes his life better. Yeah. So a little bit of hurt that I'm having at my 9 to 5 is nothing in comparison to the success my son is going to achieve because I'm doing this, which makes what I'm doing a success.
What you're saying is, here's my value set, right? And so when you're going out and you are, making sacrifices or going out through your day and accomplishing little things, that's still a win for you, right? And winning and success does not come from easy work. Let's get really crystal clear about that.
Right.
Becoming successful, whatever that definition is to you, whatever that looks like, however that shows up in your life, is not going to be easy work.
And let's be clear on one other thing while we're getting this straight. Just because you're succeeding doesn't mean you won. And just because you win doesn't mean you're a success. Right? You can lose and still be successful. And here's here's what I mean by that. You could successfully learn something even if, like, say you take a test on, let's say, math, whatever. Let's say in high school, algebra 30, whatever the fuck it is in high school, right? I didn't graduate, so I don't know. You take an algebra 30, right? Let's say you failed the exam, your final exam, but while doing that exam, you learned the correct way to do things and you finally figured it out. So you succeeded in the course, but you failed the test, right? It's a little complicated, but that progresses throughout life, right? There's many things that I've done that I was successful at, but I didn't win.
So it begs the question then.
Please question.
By whose definition and under what perception
exactly
how are you defining that success?
Exactly.
I think that you're responsible for that.
You have to be able to have the responsibility and the integrity to say, here's what I'm going after, right? And you can set the benchmark. You can set the end result. And as long as you're moving closer to that, in my opinion, that's a win.
So do you set I always set my sights, if I'm going to succeed at something, a lot of people say to set your sights lower so that you can actually achieve the success. My thing is, here's the top notch, right? I want to be here, and that's a success. And maybe I'm different than other people, but I don't get down on myself for many things. There's only a few things that I'm like, I fucked up, right? But when it comes to not reaching a point in something, even if I didn't succeed because of my aspirations towards that, I will eventually get there, so I will eventually succeed.
Well, you're the only one that's measuring that because you're the only one that really truly knows your destination. So being
but if we're talking in the context of success and our own personal successes, right? I think it's important to talk about, because we went last week on failures, right? It's important to talk about what success means, and just because you didn't reach your point of your successfulness, right? You could still get there. Right. There's still an opportunity for you to reach that. Sure. So are you going to be down on yourself for not reaching it that day?
Well, it takes,
or is that going to continue over?
Yeah, it takes a level of cognizant awareness,
right,
to what you're and radical truthfulness to what it is that you're aiming for. Because I'll say right now, I want to be. I don't know. I'm trying to put this in the context of me so that it makes sense. I want to be the next Gary Vaynerchuk or Tony Robbins. So let's make an equal comparison. Michael Jordan, early on in his basketball career, just graduated college. I want to be the best ball player there is. Back in his day, he had an idol that he wanted to do as good as, if not better. So he was honest with himself every day. And that caused him to hold himself accountable to the actions that he was taking, so that he inevitably pushed himself to the level of success that he desired. So if I want to be the next Tony Robbins or Gary Vaynerchuk, then I got to be fucking honest with myself. Is the shit that I'm doing today putting me in the position to be that person? Or am I making excuses so that when I don't become that person, I can be like, yeah, well, you know, just because I got divorced, or it's because my girlfriend didn't support me, or oh, it's because of this, or because of that, right? So that
you're not laying
accountability.
off blame, right? You're actually taking the responsibility for that.
And that's radical truthfulness to yourself, being fucking truthful. Now, there's nothing wrong with your personal measure of success is, I just want a fucking decent job that I can wake up and go to and get my paycheck and then go home and play my video games and eat my chips and love my family,
right.
Whatever. If that's your definition of happy, and that's it. How do you measure what your success is? And you get to do that. That's your definition. Nobody else gets to do that. Steve can't tell me what my version of success is. He might be able to influence it by being successful himself, or by me choosing to allow him to mentor me in some way.
By having quality traits that you aspire to.
Exactly, right? Accountability and
good
whatever
mastermind,
else.
good people that you can communicate with.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's exactly what I wanted to start with, how we personally define success, right? Like this is, because a lot of people say, oh, if you know, if they see somebody that isn't doing well in life financially, right? Living in maybe the poor parts of town, or, you know, but that, let's say, I'm not going to cast anybody in a shadow or something, but let's say somebody comes home from work and they don't have a great job, they're making minimum wage, and they have 3 kids at home, and you know, they're living in a 2-bedroom apartment, and they're
just coping.
They're just coping, right? Yeah. But they do that job so that they come home and their kids are happy, the kids are healthy, the family is great, and that's her perception of success, right? A great family and having that bond with their children, that is success.
And if that's that person's definition of success and that makes them happy, I would argue that, yeah, they are successful.
Mm-hmm. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being that person.
As long as you're happy, right? Now, this is where I wanted to get to, is that in society these days, we equate success with monetary value.
For sure.
Right? So if you're a millionaire, which in today's standards isn't that much money anyway, but if you're a millionaire, okay, you're successful in the eyes of 80% of people that don't know themselves.
And however, how many millionaires have you met who are miserable?
Lots.
Lots.
Is that success? Do you define that as a success?
You know, and to some people, when they're outside looking in, it's easy to say, oh, I'm looking at this person and he has, you know, things that I want. So yeah, I look at him as successful. However, role reversal, that person might say, I have no time to do anything, right? All I do is work. Yeah, I can buy whatever I want. However, I have no time for me. I have no time for my family.
Exactly.
In his minds, he might not be successful. So to answer your question, Parnell, for me, you have to get crystal clear about where you are right now. Where's point A? Where's my starting point, right? Get very, very clear and brutally honest about that. And for me, I'm happy, I'm succeeding if I'm growing. So the list of things that I'm working on, if I'm growing, then that's a win. So a month later or 3 months later, when I say, okay, perfect, 3 months down the road, here's where I am now. Let's take a screenshot of this, right? I might not have achieved these goals, right? It might not have happened yet. However, have I made progress? And in my mind, that's success. And when I'm doing my goal setting, when you say you want to shoot higher, I always set my goal and then I look at, like, how can I make this more intense? So I often double it. And then I know that likely it's not going to happen. However, by doubling my goal and making it so crazy big that I have to fight every day to get it. And then even if I only achieve 80% of it, I can look back and say, holy shit, I did not achieve this goal. So like my winning point might not have happened. However, I've come so far from where I started, and that in itself is a win.
You know what? I follow Tony Robbins, whatever you guys want to call him. I follow his model process, right? So if somebody else has done it, you can do it as well. That's how I kind of live my life, right? Also, I'll choose different people to model, whether if they have a lot of money. Okay, I want to model that person for financial success. Or if somebody has a great family structure, I want to model that person for the great family structure. Or this person has a great mindset, I want to model them for the great mindset. Or in the case of Devin, I'll model Devin for his work ethic, right? You can have role models, but your role models you shouldn't aspire to be that person. You should aspire to take on the good qualities they have to incorporate them into your life so you can be successful at whatever endeavor you're
And
at.
factor in and take in, different mentors and different role models for different areas of your life, right?
Right.
Like looking at it, like Devin might be a great role model for certain things. You might be a great model for certain things, right?
No.
And for me growing up, like I had different mentors, A, at different stages in my life, and B, for different things, right? If I know that this person knows how to make money, yeah, I can learn from him. I can hang out with him. I can replicate some of those habits, right? And then at the same time, if I see someone who's like crushing it in his relationship, I might spend some more time with him and say, hey, how do you show up in your relationship, right?
So would you say right now that you're in the habit of searching for and acquiring mentors?
Absolutely.
Every day, all day.
Every
So
single day.
how did that become a part of your foundation?
It happened for me based on just trial and error and figuring out what works and what doesn't. And I noticed over time when I hang out with certain people, right, I would go into a slump, right? And as much fun as it is going out and watching the game 4 or 5 nights a week and drinking beer, I was not achieving what I wanted to do. And I could sit back and say, I'm actually not making the strides towards my definition of success, what I'm working towards.
Do you blame the people that you were with
Absolutely
for that, or
not.
do you blame yourself for that?
There's no blame point at anywhere, right? That's the thing. There's no blame game at all. It's a realization and a question, a simple question. Is this benefiting me? Yes or no? I know there's a time for me to go and hang out with the boys. Is it 5 nights a week? No, I know that's not cohesive.
So
is it appropriate for me to say, hey, you know what? We're going to get together. We're going to go blow off some steam. Yes, there's a place for that. It's about having the awareness to say, if and when I'm going to do these things, am I going to do it and in what doses?
So it's the ability to recognize exactly where you want to be in life and that you're not achieving those goals. So this activity has to stop for me to reach this goal, and I recognize that within myself. So I have to cut this, or I'm not going to reach that, or I lower my standards, or I lower my success bar, or whatever it is, right? So
Exactly.
there has to be a compromise, right? Either you're going to go out those 4 or 5 nights a week and watch the game, and your measure of success is gonna gradually come down over time because we only have a certain amount of time, right? Or you're gonna say, you know what, guys, listen, I really do love you as friends. You're great. I just can't come out with you every night,
For sure.
right? I'll come out for you one night a week or
We can
twice
still
a night.
hang. We can
We
still
can
be
still
boys.
do it, but I still want to reach that success, right? So if you're really my friends, you're gonna say, cool. I'm glad you're not at the game. Go reach your goals.
And how cool would it be if in your circle, when you take leadership, right? Because that's what we're doing this for. It's all about leadership, right? If you take the leadership and say, hey, you know what? I'm actually not going to go out and do this because I'm going to, I have this book I need to read, or there's a class that I'm going to take, or you know what? I'm going to go to the gym for, I'm going to go to sleep and wake up and go to the gym.
They just like rally the gang
Whatever
up.
is working. And then how cool would it be if your crew is just like, oh, you know what? Yeah, no, that's sweet. You know what? I'll go to the gym with you in the morning too. And then you create momentum together. And
Right.
it's so much easier to succeed. And it's so much easier to create that momentum when you have people on your team.
Absolutely.
And that's why it's so important to pay attention to who you're hanging out
The
with.
correct people. You have to be around the correct people, because there was a time in my life where I was around just nobodies, right? People that were succubus. They would literally steal your fucking energy. They would steal
Nothing
everything
to
from,
lose and no care for the ramifications of their actions.
They didn't really care about me. They didn't care about what I did. They cared about what it got them.
Right.
Right. So having true friends and true people in your life that want to see you do better and do the best for yourself is something I don't think a lot of these people have in their life. People that aren't succeeding, right? They're relying on somebody else's opinion of them, right? And we talked about that last episode, right? They don't have great self-worth. They think their life is, this is what it is and it won't get any better, right? And we see this in downtrodden areas of the nation and everywhere we go, right? You look at the ghettos, you look at the projects, and there's a bunch of guys that will just hang around, do the same shit all day, every day, because they feel like there's nothing else to them. They've never experienced anything, right? The most success I've ever had in life was being able to travel the world and seeing, and this is going to sound horrible, seeing how much better off I was being born in Canada. There's so many advantages afforded to me because I was born in a place, in a first world country with parents of upper middle class, income.
Would you say that there's a correlation between success and self-worth?
Yes, 100%. I think your self-worth is absolutely measured by your success. And I think your success is measured by your self-worth. You could be, this goes back to, you could have zero money in the bank, you could have no family, no friends, but if you feel like you're making a difference in the world or whatever quality you enjoy, if you feel like you're that person, you could be completely narcissistic and feel successful. That's your definition of success. But from the outside looking in, if somebody looks at that, they're going, that guy's not successful. Even if he has, like I said, $1 billion in the bank, or he's broke, right? You're never going to find success unless you truly believe that's what success means to you.
Well, and it starts with you learning how to measure your own success. It starts with you being honest with yourself and the decisions that you're making. Because if you are hanging around with people that aren't supporting you, they're very clearly, their focus is self-ward. It's in, you know what I mean? They're selfish. And I don't like the word selfish just because people don't really understand it to the deepest degree. Because check this out. Being successful also
selfish.
requires you to be selfish.
Yeah.
This goes back to the last time when we touched on filling your own cup. If you're not feeling success, you're not measuring yourself and seeing that you're a good person or you're valuable or whatever the fuck it is, and instead you start beating yourself up and that negative dialogue starts happening in your mind, you get kind of caught in a paradigm, you know, in this bubble of that's the way the world is, and so therefore I must be selfish also. But nobody realizes that if you actually want to do something with your life or have meaning or impact or create wealth for yourself, have good relationships, date people that you find super attractive and have the confidence to do it, all of those things, you know, the top three, the health, wealth, and fitness, those things happen from within. So when you finally go, you know what, I don't think that this group of people is serving me, and maybe I need to make better decisions, maybe I need to surround myself with better people, I need to make that decision for myself. I don't need to make that decision because, I'm afraid Steve's not going to like me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? On the road to success, you're going to burn some bridges.
Right. And you find different people along the way. And when you operate from that level of scarcity, thinking that this is all I get is just these three people and I better not piss them off because I'm never going to find another fucking friend again. And then you get trapped. You get trapped in that place. And I empathize with it because I've been there.
And if they are true friends, they will be there afterwards. It doesn't matter.
Right.
I can look at my man that's in the studio with us. He's not on camera, but I can look at him and be like, I haven't seen him in, we literally hadn't talked before. We talked before for 10 years, but it was the exact same thing. As soon as we saw each other again, it was the exact same thing. We were still great friends. We talked and reminisced for hours. And it was still like, hey, I'm proud of you, man. I'm happy for you. I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. And it was the same on both. The respect was still there. He was still reaching for his dreams. I was still reaching for mine. And we were able to come together and be like, okay, cool. Now we can collaborate because we were both successful in our own minds for our own definitions, right? And having that self-confidence and that worth and that everything pile up and you're proud of who you are, that resonates so much more with others. So if other people aren't taking that, if you have to drop some loser friends, and I say loser friends in a very general way, there's so many people I know that are losers that are still my friends, right? That's just my perception of them. You know what I mean? But if you have to drop, I'm not naming. But if you have to drop,
be on that list.
If you have to drop, you're high on the list.
Yeah.
If you have to drop some loser friends to accomplish your goals, then drop them. This is your life we're talking about. This isn't about somebody else's life. This is your fucking life.
It seems selfish. However, when you look at it, what's important to you, and it goes back to inward focused or outward focused, and there's going to be a time in your life for both. And honestly, it comes down to leadership. And like we said in the week one, like, leadership starts with leadership of self, and it starts with growing a pair of balls, getting self-aware, recognizing where you're at, and making the difficult decision to say, this is not serving me, and go do something different. Right?
Facts.
And when you do that, you're going to create that momentum. That's going to compound, and you're going to feel rewarded because, hey, I stuck up for something. I made a decision that's benefiting me, and because of that decision, maybe not right now, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not in a month from now. However, at some point, I will be able to return to this and give and add value.
Now, you did mention when we first started this, you said you do journal, right?
Yep.
So every day you're accountable for yourself. Now, I don't do that, right? And I'm wondering if it's something I should implement in my life. And I've been struggling with this. I've always wanted to just try it. I just don't think I have the time or I guess maybe the brain capacity to do it.
To be honest with you, when the time thing, that's a moot point. It takes me 3 minutes.
Right. Okay. So,
and all it does for me, I'm get into my creative zone by I like putting stuff on paper. I enjoy writing. I enjoy being able to say, okay, even more than typing. Like when you type something out, there's something different for me in my brain when I write
having it tangible there in your hand makes so much.
And all that does for me, it might be a value to you. It might be a value for a lot of people. I believe it is, and the reason for that, it just gives me clarity.
So let's clarify what that means, though, because journaling to me, when I first entered this world,
was like, dear diary, dear diary, I met Samantha and she had such good eyelashes. I loved her lips.
If you flip through my journal, it's literally like a quarter of a page or a half a page. It has a date, 3 things I want to do, and then at the bottom, it's like, did I accomplish it? Yes or no? Why not?
What was one entry in it that you can share with us?
Dude, today it was get up, work out. I was okay, we have to sell 2 cars today. I did not achieve that. We did one deal. It was good. And then it was to come here and smash this out.
Yeah.
Right? So based on results, 2 of those 3 things happened. Right? So now tomorrow it's like, okay, did I succeed? Yes or no? And in my mind, today was a huge success.
So I love that that's your process. Because of the mastermind group that I were in, we got books that are kind of like laid out in a much more organized fashion. And again, caged in and trapped. A lot of it felt redundant to me. I'm writing this thing down, then I'm writing it again down here, and I'm writing it over here, and I'm lost in my own self. And this took me being honest and truthful with myself. Well, maybe I wasn't honoring my process. Now, here's how I used to do it, and what I have so happy now that I've gone back to it because it worked very well for me and my personality. So my version of journaling was I always kept a tiny little one of those dollar store notepads that were about this big.
I remember that every fucking day I saw you. Still got it in your back pocket right now?
I do not have it. I've graduated to a much larger sheet of paper. But what I would do is I would just keep a running tally of shit that needed to get taken care of. And that's all it was to me, was just an ongoing to-do list. Now, respect the to-do list because it can very quickly turn into a fuck you list, you're a loser list, and hate your life list. So you got to be realistic about it. But to me, as I matured into using this list, the list became a living document. Today, at the beginning of the week, I wrote down all the shit that I wanted to take care of. I think I actually got it sitting down there from last week. And then
none of it's done.
No, once I started the day, I'm like, what do I feel like doing today? Because I know I got timelines. There's some shit that's time sensitive, right? Like I gotta send an email to this chick. I gotta, make sure I follow up with that dude, whatever, So, and that's supposed to happen today. So you know what? Let's just quickly knock that shit off and get a win. Cool, we got that covered. That was a success. And now the snowball for me starts to take off. And then I look at the list and I start looking at some of the bigger things. So last week, instead of journaling in the book that I was given, I've since shelved it, and now I'm back to my process, and I wrote that whole list down, dude, and I crossed every fucking thing off my list, except for one thing. But the one thing is a very big project that there's more things that fall in once I start that project. So to me, I ended up clearing this space, and it was so much more easier. There was less stress on me. There was no expectation, because I was like, I'll get the shit done. I trust myself to get the shit done. I always get the shit done. So I just wrote the fucking list. And then when I got to that one project, I'm like, okay, what can I do to open this project up and move it forward in a meaningful way? And that to me meant just breaking it down into a more meaningful process now that instead of it being a high level project. And just for the record, the high level project was create case study videos. So that's a big project. And I just want it there to continue to remind me of that's one of the ideas that I want to execute on. I got tons of ideas on my phone and on this paper, that paper, but
the reason I was asking about journaling is because I'm taking on a project right now where I'm building out a whole video series, a brand new product for what we're doing here, and I was trying to break it down just in my head, going over things, right? Because I'm very good at doing things in my head. I barely write anything down at all, but I'm trying. It's so detailed and it has to be so organized that I think journaling would actually help me accomplish that. But I'm not sure exactly where to start. So. Like, do I do it? And because if I start journaling, I'm just doing it, and now all of a sudden I'll get right into the project and start doing the project, right?
And see, there's nothing wrong with that too. Like I said, it's gonna show up differently for everybody.
Right.
For me, it's literally just to prioritize things. I mean, I could be like Devin and write down 100 things that I have to do today, right? And what would end up happening is I'd look at 100 things and I'd go into like, holy shit, where do I even begin at this, right? If you can take that list of things that you need to do and compress it down into 3 or 4 things that are like really high priority that would add a ton of value that I know I can get done, right? Because then you look at the other things you got to do, and once you are creating those, those momentous little wins, then it's easy to say, okay, here's the other things I need to do. First question, do they really need to get done right now? Or, can I delegate this? Is this something that's pressing? Is there something here that is more important?
Don't tell me I can delegate. He hates when he hears that because he knows I'm going to delegate everything to him. Can you please do this? Can you please do that? I hate hearing
delegating is so important. If there's something on your list where that you're more effective working on something else, and this is something that does not require your full attention, delegate.
Don't get me wrong. Like I delegate things to him, and he delegates things to me, right? So if I know he's going to crush something, and I know he's way better at it, Dev, please take care of this. Because it's not only going to cost him less time and effort, it's gonna afford me the ability to say, okay, I have half an hour to do something else, right?
You got your space and I got my space.
Right.
We know what we're good at. It's funny.
And let's not step on each other's toes. And I'm going to respect you to do the things that I know you're good at.
See, guys, listen. Even real alpha guys, real alpha men, can learn some things from this. All right.
At the very beginning of our like the founding moments of our business, one of the very first things that we did was, hey, let's start an Excel sheet and just take your time this week and write every fucking thing you know you're good at. Not just like, I think I can handle that. Proficiencies. Are you fucking fluent in those things? And then write those things in a list. And then let's compare lists and see what each other's strengths are and how we can serve each other.
And then we went over that list. Yeah, there was some overlap on that.
And there was a lot of overlap.
And then it was like,
a couple of areas, right? So most of the creative shit, right?
Yeah.
And so when it comes to the creative thing, we both know, we're like, okay, we're both good at being creative. So let's make this like an improv thing. And I don't know if you're familiar with how improv works, but there's this yes and principle. So
this can get dangerous,
right?
Yeah.
Because if you start a scene and you're like, it's a robbery and this is a stick up, and you're like, no, it's not. It's an alien, and it kills the whole scene. So you always want to progress and keep it growing and going, and that's how you get the movement is, okay, oh shit, yes, and my hands are up, except this one kind of twitches every once in a while. Is that okay? And so now you're piling on, right? And so you start to build up, and it makes it much more engaging.
Yeah, this goes to that every week I put on Facebook, okay, it's Facebook story time, and I'll start with one sentence. And Devin, I actually caught this from Devin. Because I didn't notice it until he started doing it on a regular. He's like, he's the one that makes the story continue. He's like, yes, and keeps going and going and going. And somebody be like, somebody else will try and kill the story. And Devin will come right back and say, yes, and keep going. And I'm like, this dude can just keep something going.
So how do we create this into something tangible that, all three of us and whoever's listening to this can relate to and transition into their lives?
So you have to create a process that works. You can't just go willy-nilly through life. And I think that that's a hard fact, is that we require, as conscious thinking beings, some form of structure. And this is why our society has advanced to what it is today. We have a grocery store that we can go to pick food up. That's part of a system and a structure. So if you want self-development, you want growth, it's just like working out. You don't know last week if you did 10 reps or 11 reps, so fucking write it down. Right? If you're trying to build that muscle,
create a program.
But did you lift the 15 or the 20? You don't remember. So how the fuck are you going to progress if the only thing that you're doing is just guessing? So I think it starts with, I'll tip the snowball, some kind of system and structure that will hold you accountable to what it is that you're trying to work towards.
Before we get there, I think we have to get back to, if you're trying to define what success means to you and how you're going to make that happen, first you have to define what it means.
What it is. Set a goal.
You have to say, listen, if you're struggling in your job, right? Say, today I'm going to go in. Today's going to be a success if I get to work on time. That's your success. Yeah. That's one success for the day. If you can do that, the day was a fucking success. It doesn't matter what happens at work. It doesn't matter what happens after work. It doesn't matter what happens before work. That day was a success. Now, once you get to that stage, you start adding on, because I know you guys are probably just like me. We have 50,000 different successes, benchmarks we can reach in a day to make that day a success.
And how easy is it to ignore those little successes, right?
It's so easy. It's so easy to get so bad.
You look at the big things only, and it's so easy to say, oh, I ignored or chose not to pay attention to the little things.
I have a huge issue with this. I have a problem with the little things getting on my nerves and almost like little setbacks for me, right? It's a big thing, and I actually just realized this a couple days ago, believe it or not, and how I'm able to get past that is that when I'm having little like failures they just keep piling on, because last week was fucking horrible for me. It was a terrible week, and I had to get to the point where I was like, okay, last week was bad. This morning I was like, this week's not going to be bad.
And that's how you interrupt.
I made a conscious decision to be like, if the pattern interrupt is there, I know it's not going to be a bad week. Today started off horrible again. The exact same shit as last week. And I made a decision right there. I said, I'm not going to let this travel into the next days and be like last week, because that just creates a snowball. So my success for today was, I'm going to go to this place. I'm going to make sure the drywallers are doing what they need to do. I'm going to do what I have to do in my areas. That was my success.
It's so important to be able, and it goes back to awareness. Be aware about able to interrupt, right? And have that pattern interruption, because It's up to you 100%
Yeah.
if you're going to continue on a negative feedback loop or if you're going to get out of it and you're going to do something different.
And neurolinguistic programming, they actually talk about this called the switch loop, right? So you actually think about the negative in your mind and make it bigger and bigger and bigger. And then once you realize it's there, okay, now you're trying to shrink it smaller and smaller and smaller, and then find what your success is. Right?
Yo.
And you try and switch it out for the big, you make it bigger in your mind, and the negative goes smaller and the positive gets bigger, and then you try and switch it out, right? So you do some physical activity or something that's going to switch your brain out into it, right? And Richard Bandler does this great. I encourage everybody to pick up anything by Richard Bandler, right?
Yeah.
The godfather of neurolinguistic programming, NLP. And it's just easier ways to switch your mind into a positive mindset or a negative mindset, whatever mindset you want to get into, right?
Because you have full control over that.
Exactly.
At every single given moment throughout the day, and it's on a second by second basis. You are 100% responsible. I am 100% responsible for what I'm thinking about, be it positive or negative. And if it's negative, do I want to be there? Do I want to let that compound? Or am I going to recognize that I'm creating this all this shit,
Right.
and it's my decision to either stay there or get out of it?
And your responsibility to stay there or get out of it.
For sure. So let's get really clear on this. So first step is defining what success is to you, right? Second step is creating some sort of a roadmap, because I heard this on a podcast I was listening to this morning on my way to work. You could have the best ship. You could be on the most expensive yacht in the world, right? It could be yours. You could own that thing.
But if it's
you
in your
don't have the
driveway,
captain, right? So who knows how to drive this yacht or how to captain this yacht? You're just going to float around. If you do not have direction and purpose, you're just going to float around.
Right.
and
So
it's
that's a great
separating
analogy.
the
I like
difference
that.
now. So I love and hate the fact that you refer to them as loser friends, but I'm gonna
The way that's just how I speak. You guys know how I speak.
I love to hate it, and this is the reason why. Because also, if you have loser friends, you also can have winner friends, and there's a big difference between the two. The loser friends, let's just be really nice and kind about it.
That's not what we do here.
Unmotivated.
Why don't we say loser friends are people who lose, and the reason why they lose is because they're not doing well in the game, and if they're not doing well in the game, then is that the team you want to fucking be on?
And that's
So
your
look
game that
for-
you're defining,
yeah.
because they might be crushing it in their game.
Right, and so and that's your responsibility, right? So why don't you surround yourself, or at least try to spend more time with winner friends who are winning at things, and
Things that
just
your definition of winning.
Notice the difference between hanging out with those people and hanging out with these people, and when you realize that, it may afford you the opportunity now to pursue that other side. Again, within the perception of that minute by minute thing, second by second, you get to decide what emotion this is. You can feel shit. Shit can hit you. There's all the different emotions, but then how are you going to move through that emotion and do something meaningful with it? You reminded me of these guys that I watch, RSD. If you don't know them, go look them up. Owen Cook and Julian.
I love RSD.
Yeah. So these guys are fucking amazing. They said, this is how the majority of people go through life. Something bad happens to them and they use really, really harsh words. And those really harsh words actually are programming them to continue to think that way. So they say things like, this is fucked. Everything's fucked. Fuck my life. And that shit has so much weight behind it. Just like, if you're listening or watching, just say it, like, fuck my life. Like, doesn't that feel... Now, the opposite to that, and just try it once or twice, and you can fill in whatever fucking adjective you want here, but instead of saying this, instead of saying, this is fucked, like, what a pickle. And I don't care how bad it is, what a pickle. Just
Hilarious.
doesn't have as much weight to it. And if that's the pattern interrupt, if that's the
And it
loop,
works.
It's so funny.
thing that you
He does
do
it to
to
me.
break
You do that to me all the
what
time.
a pickle. This is
hilarious.
such an unfortunate event. And it's so dumb, so fucking cheesy, but it takes the weight off of it.
And you laugh and you smiling. And I'm going to say two things here, okay? Because I picked this up from a good friend of mine, Joelle, and her thing is, whenever something happens, be it like, it's the worst negative thing that could happen, right? Say like a deal completely falls through, or you get dumped or whatever. You're like, that's exciting. That's exciting.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
exciting. And then people are staring at you, like people staring at you, and it's like, the fuck, man? Like, no, that's terrible. Like, no, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Right? And it's the
But you
exact
gotta go.
same
You
thing.
gotta truly want to embrace it, because you can fake it, right? You're like, that's exciting.
Eventually
You're
it'll
being
kick in. Eventually
sarcastic
it'll
and
kick in.
tongue-in-cheek,
though.
but eventually, if you just do it with the intent, set that intention behind it to just be like, I don't want this to be heavy. I don't want my whole day to be ruined. I get that a bad thing happened. I'm under some stress or whatever, but I need to remain productive. I need to remain on top of things and focus on, the other tools that we're kind of alluding to here. But when you face those challenges and those stresses, here's the punchline. When you face those challenges and stresses, do your best to lighten the load so that you can continue moving.
And let's build on lightening the load a little bit. And
Okay, let me start.
do your thing.
So to lighten the load, here's what and this is another something I learned, right? When I first started working out, I fucking hated it. So I was running, right?
Yeah.
So when I first started running, I could only run a block. I was that big, I couldn't run a block, couldn't run any more than I would have to walk for an extra hour.
Oof.
So to get me past that, I realized after about a month, I started getting a little further and a little further, but then it started hurting, right? Your legs would hurt, your knees would hurt, everything would just hurt because my body wasn't used to doing that, right? So while I was listening, I was literally listening to Tony Robbins in my headphones as I'm running, right? He's like, if you're going, and I remember exactly where I was. I remember exact time he said it. He goes, if you're going through something painful, smile. He goes, just smile. He goes, smile for 5 fucking minutes while you're doing it, and I guarantee you it gets better. So I said, fuck it, I'm running. All right, let me smile. Big smile and big shit-eating grin on myself. I'm fucking, inside, I'm hating it. I'm fucking hating
you're
it.
like, fuck you, Tony Robbins.
I'm like,
It's
it's exciting, and I'm breathing and I'm breathing, I'm smiling, and literally after about 2 minutes, I was like, you know what, I'm good, I'm happy, I'm good. Literally, my whole demeanor changed. It went from my body hurting and having to do this thing to look what I get to do. I'm happy, I'm doing this.
Right.
It's a mindset switch, right?
And so much of it comes from your belief.
Right.
So how do you know, and this is the second thing that I was going to get to, how do you know when you're on the right track, right? Because you make a shift, right? Say you stop hanging out with certain people, or say you start a new project that you might not have tried before, right? You are, how do you know you're on the right track? And you and I talked about this a little bit just before we started recording, right? When you're in that flow state, you'll know because it seems easy. Like you're just rolling with it, and you know it might be like what? It's like 10 o'clock right now. It's like you're rolling.
It seems easy, and you don't even realize that you're tired because you just have so much energy because you're excited about things.
And
right?
you keep your little wins and your energy that you're expending into this thing is going to keep pumping you up because you're going to you're going to be so dialed in and focused on it, and you're going to feel good because you know what you're doing is productive. And it's honestly,
there's an alignment that happens.
You're in alignment. It's easy. It's just you're in your flow state. It's coming naturally to you, and you're going to start attracting the things that you need into your life.
This is what karma actually is, eh? Like a lot of people think
you are so Canadian,
just because somebody does something bad to you, they're gonna get it. You know what I mean? Like karma's out here just trying to equal the bad. No, it ain't like that. Karma is what you put out into the world, and what you put out in the world is what's going to come back to you. And if you put out negative emotions, you put out negative thoughts, if you are doing the negative bad things, then that's what happens. The negative gets attracted to you. Negative people. You start gossiping with other gossipers who are being negative and shitting on people and spreading rumors and lies and whatever else. If you're around winners and if you're around people who are, doing meaningful things with their lives, and you start doing meaningful things with your lives, you attract more people who are doing meaningful things with your lives. And this goes back to the shit testing thing. Is people who are doing meaningful things with their lives recognize the fucking second they meet somebody who isn't doing meaningful things with their lives. And they don't want to fucking spend time with you because you're not doing meaningful shit with your life. But as soon as you're in alignment and as soon as you start snowballing those things, all these little strategies or tips or whatever, when you start doing the actionable shit, then those things start coming back. And I experienced this myself firsthand because there was a part of this year where I was like, fuck everything. Fuck everybody. I don't want to talk to nobody. They're all fucking assholes and everybody's out to get me. And I could fucking feel the shift. And I could feel the whatever that is, the wolves closing in on me. And I started having conversations with people that was like, this is not in alignment with who I think I am. And it was a very short and very brief period of time, but I realized like, holy fuck, I'm feeding these people's fires. I'm fanning people's fires. And I'm like, that's not it. I need to reshift. So I took some time. I went on a little bit of a sabbatical for myself, from the group, from everybody. And I just focused on what it is that I knew that I needed to accomplish. And I started getting that snowball effect going, that winner effect thing happening. As soon as it started rolling, the next call that I get on after I consciously made the decision to do this proactively for myself, the next call that I get on, all of a sudden fucking people are introducing me to people, doors are flying open, opportunities are getting thrown at me, and I'm having to, now I'm vetting different opportunities to decide whether or not I should pursue this idea or that idea, or, work with these people or that people. And it started to manifest again in a positive way, much like it did at the beginning of this year for me. Actually, when you and me first got into contact, I was in that state of mind where I was like, let me just go out and add value to the world and see if I can make a difference. And then when we had a couple of the conversations we did, it was like, this is positive, this is working, I'm helping people. And I felt that deeply in my fucking soul. And I don't want to get all woo woo on it, but really,
on every episode, you might as well start.
But really, truly, I could feel that alignment in who I was and what I was trying to create. And I was like, this is exactly the fucking path I need to be on.
And it's funny that you say that, because for me, I mean, I've been, invested into the personal development world invested for the last 5 years, cognitive of it for the last, 7, right?
Yeah.
And in all of my, across my journey in that, I had caught myself that I was forcing everything. I'd read the book and I'd go out and I'd say, this needs to happen right now. I know that I'm doing the right things. This needs to happen right now. And I would put so much force and, effort and create so much resistance to what I was doing that it wouldn't actually come in. Honestly, this year has been the best year of my life. And the biggest thing that changed was has just gotten to a point where I said, okay, this is what I'm doing. I know the results are coming. I know that what I'm doing works. I just need to sit back. I need to fall into trust and faith and just let it happen. And honestly, as soon as I did that and made that conscious decision to just say, hey, this is what I'm doing, I know it works. And I got out of my own way. And then it was just like, boom, clicked. And it was like the seas parted and it was just smooth sailing. You get out of your own way, set the intention.
What does that mean? Dig deeper into get out of my own way. That I need
fall into trust.
Don't do that, because we're going to do that on the next episode.
All right.
Okay, because that's a huge topic and I really want to do that. Let's get into words. Success. Let's end this off like we always do. Let's talk about the words that you associate with success. I will start. Self-worth.
Peace.
Love.
Happiness.
Liberty.
Truth.
Expectations.
Risk.
Measurement.
Accomplishment.
Rewards.
Synergy.
Fuck you guys, I'm out.
Oh, that was good.
Every fucking time.
That was good.
Yeah, I like that.
When you said synergy, I'm out. I'm not fucking.
I don't know what it means. What are you saying? Over here, it's a 3-syllable word.
Just before we end here, what I was going to say is, I know Mike will probably pick it up. But when I said I disagreed with you when you were talking about the last thing you were going off with, I disagree with karma. I don't agree with karma. I don't think it exists. That's just me. But I do believe it. I do agree with everything you were saying. When you're in the right cycle of people, whether it's negative or positive, you're gonna. When you lay down with dog, you catch fleas.
That's what I'm trying to argue, is that the perception of what karma is actually a misunderstanding, and I think that with that information, it changes the definition a little bit.
Get clear on your intention, set a plan, and get out of your own fucking way and go do it.
I love it, guys.
Appreciate
it.
It's
fantastic. I'll see you next week.